All right, Shalom.
Shalom.
I'm gonna start out by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakak Wadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to all the Akim out there pushing the word in sincerity and in truth. And this is just gonna go into the house of David being resurrected. All right, the word resurrected, means back, and insurrection means to rise. All right, and that's all in a representation of the house of Israel, because we were dead, we fell, we died and went in captivity, as it is written in Matthew, where the virgins fell asleep. All right, for a time, and this is the time where the house is being rewoken and being reestablished. Because before we had to physically build, the Most High had to build our minds and stir us up through way of remembrance. And through the starting off with the apostles and elders, waking our minds up. That's why we get together and we're building the house of David right now as we speak. That's why, we're going to that word edification. We edify one another through words, which that's a form of building. All right, the word edify goes into edificio, which means to construct or to build. Mm-hmm. All right, we all represent those different bricks or those different members that's actually coming together and reassembling the house of David. All right, and the house of David wasn't just a collection of men that were just together for the hell of it. They were unique men. All right, they were men that were significantly important. That was a very, very potent house. Mm-hmm. All right, of mighty men, which that was a part of the house of David. You had the political, so-called political establishment, lawgivers, priests. All right, judges, all these different people, all these different tribes coming together, which it all constituted of the southern and northern kingdom coming together. That was the house of David. All right, and that house was the strongest house at that time. That's the strongest house that Israel ever had. All right, because Solomon's house was still an extension of David through his father, mm-hmm. and that's what the Lord is building up, the dynasty. Which that word dynasty goes into a house, man. The dynasty of David is being reestablished through the men that you see before you, starting off with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, all right, which come from the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Manasseh, Simeon, all the way down to Issachar. The 12 tribes actually coming together to fight against that common enemy, which is the house of Edom, the house of Elam, the house of Ishmael, the house of Moab, all right, the house of Ham. Just like during the time of Samuel, the first Samuel, second, that was all revolved around breaking down houses, destroying nations, having them flee.
Mm-hmm. And building up the house of David.
Building up the house of David, shattering the idols. So, we're going to go into a couple of scriptures to support, the spirit that we actually coming in. So you can start off with.
God, this is Amos chapter 9, verse 11. In that day will I rise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen. What was that?
I said you can expound on it.
Okay, Khan. It says, in that day I will rise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen. That's right. When you go in that word tabernacle, it means like, a tent. Mm-hmm. Okay? And it says in that day, we are in that day right now. So how is he doing that? With like the brother said, the men that you see before you, starting with the apostles and elders up top, trickling all down all the way to us. It says, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will rise up his ruins. Okay, because you mind if I get precept real quick?
Yeah.
That's why you got Psalm 79, in verse 1. I'm gonna get it real quick. Right. Because it said, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will rise up his ruins. Okay, so this is Psalms chapter 79, verse 1. The Psalm of Asaph. O Yahweh, the heathen are coming to thine inheritance. Thy holy temple they have defiled. Mm. They have laid Jerusalem on heaps. Mm. And that was a prophecy going towards the Babylonian.
That's right.
And it was like a twofold prophecy in 70 AD. Mm-hmm. You can link it up with Revelation 12.
The abomination that maketh itself desolate.
There you go.
Yeah, because the abomination that made itself desolate is still established today, trying to desolate Israel, desecrating our minds, because we represent the temple. This brother And a couple brothers from Memphis and Mississippi did a lesson on that, how we represent the temple. And you can't defile that temple because we are our assembly of the temple. We all represent different significant parts of that tabernacle. And one thing about the tabernacle, it's anointed divinely through the priests. All right, who are the priests? Our high priests in these times now, the apostles and elders, man. Doesn't the scripture speak about the laying of the hands of the presbytery? Mm-hmm. So the anointed started off with the high priest. They would anoint the tabernacle through of course the house of Aaron. They would make sure it was consecrated. Like that brother went into, of course, consecrated means with sacred. All right, so it was actually made holy. And is that not what we're doing now? We're cleansing our vessels through the washing of the water of this word. We're building ourselves, iron sharpening iron. All right, so sharpening our swords, teaching each other as it is written, teach Judah the use of the bow. So we're the spiritual mighty men coming back in reincarnation, man. But this is spiritual warfare that we're engaged in. All right, that's why when Yahweh Shah was talking to Peter, which Peter was David in reincarnation. Yep. And what he told Peter. You want? Yep, you can get that. And but Peter was kind of getting carnal. He thought that he was going to take the Romans down physically. Okay. But Yahweh Shah had said, put down the sword, Peter, because everybody that basically lives by the sword shall die by the sword. So even though Peter was the house, was the established rock of that house, going back to the house of David, it wasn't the same way that they would take down the nations back then in the days of old through physical warfare first. He had to be spiritual. All right, so it's the same thing now. The Most High is raising up the spiritual body, and then it's going to get physical. Of course, pursuing the Jeremiah, with that 16 to 16. Mm-hmm. All right, the Lord is going to have fishers, and that office of fishers is going to transition to hunting, which is a form of war. All right, and you had something, or you good? You had something?
I had 2 Samuel 7 and 13.
But yeah, he gonna finish that, and you go ahead.
Yeah. It says Amos 9:11. In that day, I will rise up the tabernacle of David. Oh, and if I could say about that, that's that revelation where it says the tabernacle of the Most High dwelleth within men. It says Amos 9.
If I could say there's one thing too, just picking out a couple of words. Scripture says in that day, which the word day is Yawam. All right. It says, I will raise up. That word raise is Quam. That's why we say Quam Yasha'Allah. It says, raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen. And when you go into that word fallen, it's Nepal. And that's the same word pursuing the Psalms 82 and 6, where it said that ye are gods, but ye shall fall like men. All right. That's going back to the gods of Genesis, the ones that actually became, mortal, so to speak. They fell from the essence because they were intermingling with the heathen. They started to lose the potency that was dwelling within them, which was the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah. And just like I said, the same word in Genesis for basically the so-called fallen angel, so to speak, is Nepal, man.
It's kind of like if you have, say, I know brothers don't do this, but say you have a glass of wine, right? You just keep pouring water in it. Eventually, it's going to be so watered down, it's going to lose its potency. Mm-hmm. That's how we're the watered down versions of what we used to be.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Tells you how we lost our stature.
There you go. That's why he's going to, like it says, Quam. Mm-hmm. He's going to raise us back up. Mm-hmm. So Amos 9:11, in that day will I rise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen and close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruins and will build it as in the days of old.
Mm-hmm. He said, and build it as in the days of old. And what was the days of old? The tabernacle of David that was arising, man. And it took a lot of work for that house to be risen, so to speak. It took a lot of war. Took a lot of effort. It took a lot of unity, brotherly edification, so to speak. It took a one-track mind, so to speak. It took a lot of expelling reprobates out. It's spiritually killing, a lot of people that had to actually be put to death for that house to be built up, man. And just like I said, it took a lot of discipline. And it's the same thing now. That's why GMS, Great Millstone, starting out with the apostles and elders, is a unit of disciplined men. And we're always ready to build. We're always ready to establish and fight and defend the gospel. We should always be on our toes, pursuing Ephesians 6:10. So like I said, it's not the same as back then when the men were actually physically getting themselves together to fight and battle amongst thousands of men. This is a spiritual thing, all right, where we're casting down strongholds, all right, putting on the armor of the Most High so that we could fight against the wiles of the devil, which is the spiritual demon Satan, and the physical counterpart, which is the so-called white man that's pushing out a major influx of witchcraft and sorcery on our people, starting off with us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if this house is broken down, Israel is done.
Yeah.
This is the main house that Esau wants to destroy. All other houses have been broken up, man.
Yeah.
When what they say, chopping the head off the serpent, the snake. When you chop the head off the snake, the member, the tail, the whole setup, falls with it, man.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why we have to keep this thing, the helmet. That's why Scripture say that the helmet of salvation, you got to be constantly fortified, protected by that spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah.
Mm-hmm.
You had some more?
No, that's about it.
You can jump to verse 13.
Yeah, I'll read verse 13. It says, "Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper,
Mm-hmm.
and the treader of grapes him that sowed seed, and the mountains shall drop sweet wine, and all the hills shall melt."
Yeah, this is like a Nat Turner story, man.
Yeah,
You know, we working and slaving,
mm-hmm.
but you'll watch these different slave movies, even though they tilling, they whispering a little something in each other's ear, giving each other intel about what's what, you know what I'm saying, and giving each other the status on when it's time to break free, strengthening
Mm-hmm.
each other's mind, getting their minds excited for warfare,
Yeah.
training, gaining equipment and material,
Mm-hmm.
Taking a little piece here, a little piece there to build the house, so to speak. Israel did that even during the time of Egypt. They took all the gold, like I said, that ye shall spoil the Egyptians. We doing all these different things in the spirit now. Everything that we're here for is for gain. All right, we're actually in these different positions in the society, but we actually learn from these different positions, and whatever we go through, and we always do what? Take it back to the nest to build one another. All right, feed each other with intel, feed each other with spirituality. Tell us where to go. Tell brothers what not to do from what experience. All right. So this is the same method and the same formula as in the days of old, and we have to be very, very vigilant and very, very conscious so that we don't fall, man.
If I can say, like, we're in a spiritual warfare right now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's gonna manifest into a carnal, because the Lord's, like you said, quoted Jeremiah 16:16.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord's gonna let a few men get busy.
Oh
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? With spiritual power. But like you said, we're bringing in intel. Before you start a war, you got to make sure yourself is good first.
Mm-hmm.
You got to gather the troops. It's what Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai is doing. Hamagad, the gathering of the troops.
Yep.
Right now, what we're doing in the spirit, we're gathering right now. We're making ourselves strong mentally, even physically.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're making ourselves strong. We're cleansing our spirits. We're making ourselves clean. We're mentally preparing ourselves for this war we're about to partake in when it manifests.
That's right.
But right now, we are fighting a spiritual war. But every time a nation took down another nation, it was all premeditated.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They all gathered each other. They all made, hyped themselves up.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't just go in there and whatever. No, it was it's chess moves.
Mm-hmm.
You got to premeditate your move before you make it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I wanted to say.
That's right, and that takes, just like the brother said, takes a lot of collective unity.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a one-track mind. All right, planning, sacrifices. That's another thing too. These different nations, they don't sleep. Like I said, the so-called white man doesn't sleep until he fulfills iniquity, man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A lot of times Esau cut back on his physical pleasures so that he get the job done.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing now. That's why the apostles be pushing that energy, man. Don't be all in the clubs, all running around Babylon like it's some goddamn playground, man.
Because if you're doing that, you ain't gonna be ready for that war that's coming.
Stretch yourself thin.
Yeah, you stretching yourself thin, like the brother said.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna be the one that's in the dark and not, not of the light. Because also when you read, I think Sirach 18:30, I want to say, it says, refrain thyself from thy lust.
Mm-hmm.
And even when you go, I think it's Sirach 19:5. You don't mind if I get it real
Yeah,
quick?
you got it. If you
I'll
want me to
read
get it,
it.
I'll get it.
Oh yeah, go ahead, brother. Yeah, go ahead and read it.
Right.
This is a super quick precept, Sirach 19:5.
This
Because
is,
go ahead, brother.
this is Sirach 19:5. It says, "Whoso taketh pleasure in wickedness shall be condemned,
Mm-hmm.
but he that resisteth pleasures crowneth his life."
Crown of his life, and we're all
Mhm.
trying to receive that crown at the end of the day. But you got to resist those certain lusts and those certain desires of the flesh in order to mentally prepare yourself for the war we're about to partake in. Man.
Yep.
You got to make yourself clean so you can be a formidable opponent, and so that Yahweh Shema Shai can use you.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Don't be a dud.
Yeah.
You got it, brother.
Yeah, because just like the brother said, just like when you fighting, your opponent is solely dedicated to destroying, man.
Yeah.
They gotta focus. They damn near turn into robots, man. That's why the House of David was so strong,
Mhm.
because they were so focused. They were so disciplined. That's why you have, like, a lot of times with the military, they all about cadences. They all about showing the unification of their units.
Mm-hmm.
Showing you if the captain goes left, they go left with him. Captain goes right, they go right with him. If the captain proceeds, they proceed. If the captain refrains and retracts and flees, they do the same thing. So it's the same thing. All right. That's why these different guys that's jumping ship and they going AWOL. The Most High, they got a special death for you niggas, man.
Yeah.
Talking shit about the apostles and elders that actually brought this knowledge into your vessel, through the spirit, of course, of Yahweh Shem Shai. But you guys are gonna be put to death, man. But the Lord is building. He's not scattering right now. He's gathering the house of David.
Mm-hmm.
This is a gathering of men. As it is written, unto you, O men, I call. And as a man, you got to gird up. The Lord doesn't just have assemble men just for the hell of it. He wants men to be strong. Be strong in the Lord.
That's right.
Read when you go through the different accounts. The Lord was cutting down certain men in Israel just to establish His power, to show the potency of His power.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and it all boiled down to the men that was most serious. Those are the men that survived. The ones that's most serious. The ones that got they head on a swivel.
Mm-hmm.
That's tactful, mindful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not, like the brother said, not giving themselves to the pleasures of different. Matter of fact, I'm gonna get this one precept. 2 Timothy 2:3. Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahweh Shai. No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life.
Yeah.
And if
I could say too, a major part of that too is forsaking a lot of things. Sacrifice. Whether it's your family, your children. Like going back onto the war. Certain army veterans, man, they haven't seen their family in years.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They talk to them every once in a while. Why? Because they mission focused. They know the task that's at hand.
Hey, a lot of times they don't want to talk to them because they know it's gonna put that bubbly spirit in them, man.
God.
I got that word focus because both of y'all, use it. It says the center of interest or activity. It says an act of concentrating interest or activity on something, and our interest and concentration, our attention, our amusement, because that's what the word to be amused means, divert your attention to.
Yep,
it means
right.
that our attention should be diverted to building the house of David.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If you're focused, that's what we focused on right now. Building the house of David and getting the hell up out of here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Got to spiritual hard hats. Brothers got the shovels. It's a dirty job. We in the trenches. Grunt work.
Yep.
But it's all worth it, man. Because what? At the end of the day, through the blood, sweat, and tears, through dirty work, guess what you build? A beautiful tabernacle that the Spirit of the Most High can rest in.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
I'll finish.
Matter of fact, I just finished this last part. No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who have chosen him to be a soldier. So Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shah chose us to be a soldier. We were selected to fight in this warfare. All right, the Lord actually slapped a contract. All right, gave us the covenant of His word. Told us if we would fight and endure unto the end, it speaks about the reward that you'll receive. You'll receive the kingdom of heaven, blessings, slaves, immense amount of women, riches. Basically, Deuteronomy 28 from 1 on to 14.
Yeah.
You know, but
1 Kings 3rd chapter.
Yep.
You know, you got it.
But it takes a sacrifice, like the brother said, at the end of the day. And a lot of men, they want the goodies, but they don't want to sacrifice. All right, but you got to count the cost, man. If you're really in it to win it, because the Lord is gonna push you to the brink of hell, so to speak. He's gonna push you, man. He's gonna see if you want it, just as he's seen if David didn't want it, just as he's seen Solomon want it. These different judges and these different kings, these rulers, these priests, seeing if they really wanted to fight for the kingdom of heaven to be established. Were they going to go out their ways? Hey, read the book of Maccabees. Look how dedicated the men were. They had to flee. They had to sleep outside, so to speak, eat off the land. They joined that the whole tabernacle was being desolated. You know, shrubs was growing. The people were selling out, but they didn't give up. They kept fighting. They kept praying. They kept assembling with one another, building each other's courage, building each other's faith, inspiring one another through the word. Even when men died, even when their fathers died on the battlefield right beside them, even when their brothers died, all right, even when their mothers got put to death, their children got put to death, they still knew what path that they was fighting for, and nobody could tell them otherwise.
If I can make,
go ahead, brother. Yeah, you got it.
If I can make a quick point just to expound on what you were saying, you know, because we're in the book of Joshua now. You know, the Lord was telling Joshua that what he was going to do before he did it. You know, and Joshua believed, and he went out on the battlefield and did what the Lord said. You know, and whatnot the same. It's the same thing today. You know, the Lord is telling us that the plowman shall overtake the reaper. You know, so we gotta. That's why we gotta understand and have faith. That's the key. The key, having faith and understanding and believing in that the Lord is going to do everything that He's told us.
That's right. That's exactly what it's about.
I got 2 quick precepts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to read this one first. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 16, verse 73. It says, "Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as a gold in the fire." So, yeah, the men of the Lord are going to be proven to be those men that are willing to go through it and mission-focused minded. And then, like you said, you're in the book of Joshua. This is synonymous to that. This is Isaiah chapter 41, verse 14. It says, "Fear not," because what? Joshua says it's a commandment to be of good courage. All right? Beautiful. It says in Isaiah 41 and 14, "Fear not, thou worm Jacob." We're worms. We need somebody.
Oh, it's what, 41 and 14? 144?
144. Hey, that's the spirit. I didn't even notice that until now. "Fear not, thou worm Jacob, and ye men of Israel." Okay? So you know who he's talking to.
Yeah, and he's basically speaking to people that's so-called insignificant on the side, the meek.
Yeah.
He referred to them as worms, man.
They're worms. Every time, I ain't gonna lie, every time I read that, I giggle because it's just true. Yeah. But we need Yahweh Shem Yahushai. It says, "Fear not, thou worm Jacob, and ye men of Israel, I will help thee." All right, saith Yahweh Shem Yahushai, "in thy Redeemer." So Yahushai gonna help us too, the Holy One of Israel.
And just like you said, and I'm gonna build on that. What Yahushua is going to help us, because really the top of the house of David is Yahushua. All right, that's why even David, after David, passed, so to speak, he died. He actually basically gave the anointing to Solomon.
That's right.
And he said, "The Lord said unto my Lord, sit down on my right hand till I make thy enemy thy footstool." So it was still the house of David. Yahushua in Solomon's kingdom is still the house of David. And this is Luke 1 and 68. "Blessed be the Lord power of Israel, for he hath visited and redeemed his people, and hath raised up an horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David." And who was that? Yahushua.
That's right.
"As he spake by the mouth of his holy prophets, which have been since the world began, that we should be saved from our enemies and from the hand of all that hate us." So just like the brother said, it starts off with believing that the plowman is going to overtake the reaper, believing that the house of David is going to be established in the days of old. All right, believing that the enemies that's been breaking us down and that has us in subjugation, the tables is going to turn and they're going to be under our feet, man. But with the believing is action.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
These men, all these men put forth action.
Mm-hmm.
None of these men just sat down and blessings just fell in their lap.
Mm-hmm.
They had to show that they wanted it. They had to show that they believed. You had certain men that traveled miles just by faith. Joshua, when they was marching into the promised land, they didn't know what was going to happen. They could have got eradicated by nations. They went through different nations' territory.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they got ran out, but guess what? They just kept trucking. You know? Sometimes a lot of men died depending on the circumstances. Sometimes the Spirit of the Lord was with them. Sometimes the Spirit of the Lord wasn't with them, man. You know? But ultimately, the Lord was with them at the end of the day. But the Lord had to purge out the rebels. And the Lord is doing the same thing now, man. That's why you got to hold fast, hold tight. Just listen. Keep on that path and listen to your contemporaries, so to speak, your brothers. You know, listen to your apostles and elders. Feed the flock. Do everything that the Lord told you to do. And you'll enter into the safe zone, man.
That's right.
And you got that in Sirach? If not,
yeah, I can get it for you. Sirach 48.
Mm-hmm.
God.
Yep, 48:15.
You can read it, Karatas. I'm just gonna pull it up here.
It said 15.
Yep.
It's Sirach 48 and 15. It says, "For all this the people repented not, neither departed they from their sins, till they were spoiled and carried out of their land."
And that's our people. We got spoiled, meaning all of our riches got taken from us. 70 AD. When you look at the Ark of Titus, engraved in the ark, you see menorahs, you see the treasures of the temple, all kind of goodly, pleasant things were being ransacked through the abomination that maketh itself desolate. So that prophecy came to pass. Hey, and that's why we ain't got shit today, because all our riches were took from us, man.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going.
It says, "And were scattered through all the earth."
And we're scattered through all the earth. Oh, you want to say something?
You got it.
Oh, no, go ahead if you want to say
I'm just saying, like,
God.
scattered through all. That's, it's just something that stands out.
God, the lot was scattered. All right, the riches that we actually possess. Who was it scattered to? The Arabs. All right, the Moabites, the Ammonites. Because when you go into Solomon's temple, which going back to the house of David, they said his temple was projected at like $4.4 trillion, man. Where did all those riches go?
Right.
The scripture says that how the kingdom is translated from one people to the next. Riches don't get destroyed. Gold doesn't get destroyed. It just gets transferred from one vessel to the next.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and all these vessels that actually spoiled us is going to come back into our house where it rightfully belongs. Keep going.
It says, "Yet there remained a small people and a ruler in the house of David, of whom some did that which was pleasing to the Most High, and some multiplied sin."
God dang. See that? So it was a small people. The house of David is in a big house, man.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a 300, 400,000 people in the house of David. The small David's house was a small congregation. Can you get that in Wikipedia? With I was actually speaking about.
Yeah.
And just like it said, of whom some did that which was pleasing of the Most High, because the ones that's in the house of David, they're gonna do that which the Lord it makes the Lord pleased, which is doing what? Following His word, feeding the sheep, putting the clothes back on the people that were stripped away from them, which is the nationality, the culture, the name of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, teaching them the law, statutes, and commandments, teaching them not to go to the left or the right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are all the things that the Lord has pleasure in. But you had, and it said, and some multiplied sins. And who is that? Our people, because our people are truly Israelites. All right, the house of Israel is the house of David, in the spirit. But our people don't want to adhere. They don't want to come back into this house. They'd rather build the so-called white man's mansion, build their own house, try to establish their own economic union. And that's why the Lord calls them rebellious, man, because they're actually enacting war against the Lord. Rebel goes into reback and bellum, which means war. They're actually trying to overthrow the house of the Lord just so that they house can be established, man. That's why the Lord called them what? As their father, the devil, man. They got the same they got the same mindset as the so-called white man.
Yeah. This is from Wikipedia.org. Is a house of David. It says the Davidic line, the tracing of royal lineage by kings and major leaders in Jewish history.
So it said that the tracing of kings and major leaders in Jewish history.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and of course we know the Jews represent the Israelites.
Yeah.
All right, which it was really the whole Israel, the whole house of Israel during the time of David, the southern and the northern kingdom that was fully together, fighting against them common enemies, man. And it said it was mighty men, and it was also what? Read that other part.
It says
the two types of officers they had. Read it over.
It says the tracing of royal lineage by kings and major leaders.
Yeah, kings and major leaders. So it wasn't just one king. David was the top king, of course, but different individuals, they were under David, and they had the same king-like mentality. There's not the scriptures reference us to a nation full of kings and priests. So if we're of that house of David, we're gonna be a house of kings, man, and mighty men, men of war.
That also shows you order too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got your kings and you got major leaders.
That's
right.
Know?
It just shows you how our nation is just off right now. You know what I'm saying? Our nation doesn't have no order.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, because you have a brother in the camp. He might be very elegant, so to speak, when it comes to the word. Very have a lot of poise. And very graceful when it comes to the teachings of the doctrine, so to speak. You'll have a brother that's just rough, rugged, and raw. All right, just push it out how it is. No, uncensored, so to speak. But that's the spirit. That's how in the spirit. Some brothers just got that mighty man spirit. Some brothers got that more political, more king-like, mentality. But that's the beauty of it, because we're all different parts of the body, and we come together collectively to form this house, man.
That's right.
And that's the main point, right? You had something?
No, I didn't.
Okay, and I ended with this last scripture.
Yeah.
This is Zechariah 12. Yep. 12 and 8. In that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as the Most High, as the angel of the Lord before them. And that's all aspect that defines a lot of power. It said the one that's feeble amongst them shall be as David. David spoke about jumping over walls. He tore a lion in half. David was a bad dude, man. Took Goliath out.
Yeah,
Goliath. Goliath was a big and the mighty men. I think one of the mighty men, if I'm not mistaken, killed Goliath's brother. Which I think if he had like six fingers on each hand, those were some damn near mutant people, so to speak. Them Hamites, them Philistines were big, man. They were mighty men. All right, spoke about how they would have certain the attire, the regalia that they would wear on the battlefield was damn near iron. Couldn't even iron couldn't pierce through it, so to speak. So they were strapped and ready. So to take a man down like that takes a lot of power, and ultimately a lot of power being with you. That is the power of Yahweh Shem Shai. And David understood that when he went against the Goliath, man.
Right.
He said that.
Yep.
Oh, he was gonna.
I was gonna get.
But I'll just read that last part over. And it says, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as the Most High, as the angel of the Lord before them. So the Lord basically going to have spiritual power, man. Because it said the house of David is going to be as the Most High. And the Most High is omnipotent, all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful.
And everlasting.
Everlasting. And you had some, or you good?
Fine.
Okay. But we're going to end it by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom Makim.
Shalom.
Shalom.